And now the latest across the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for September the 5th. Well, today across the wide world of tropics, the only tropical cyclone active is Major Hurricane Larry out in the main development region in the Atlantic Basin. Other than that, we do have several areas of interest and a couple invests active across the rest of the world. It's day 248 of 2021, and so far, we've had 61 storms form this year. It's possible that that rises over the next few days. In the Atlantic on day 97 of hurricane season, we could see Major Hurricane Larry there, far east of the Lesser Antilles, tracking generally northwest, could bring some impacts to Bermuda and perhaps even Atlantic Canada later in its track. And Invest 91L is currently sitting over the Yucatan Peninsula, about to head into the Bay of Campeche, and as it heads into the northern Gulf of Mexico, it has a 30% chance of forming into a tropical depression or storm, as it generally tracks towards the Pensacola area. Regardless of development, though, we're likely to see heavy rainfall, unfortunately, for some areas that have just gone through Ida. In the Eastern Pacific on day 113 of hurricane season, we have two areas of interest, one by Mexico, 50% on that one, and one further out to sea, 10% on that one. The one by Mexico could, in the longer term, bring some impacts to the Baja California Peninsula. So if you are there, please monitor this area of interest as it continues its track. In the Western Pacific, Invest 94W is currently southwest of Guam. 60% chance of formation is what we're giving it on it, as it generally tracks northwest towards Taiwan. And another area of interest that we've marked east of Luzon has a 10% chance of forming. Towards the latter part of the 5-day period is what we're looking at mainly there. In the northern Indian Ocean, it's generally quiet here. The monsoonal activity is really keeping tropical cyclones at bay. And in the southern hemisphere, no storms are active and no areas of interest are active, and nobody is complaining about that. We'll try to have those animations to you out by this month, is what we're currently planning on. As we get towards the satellite imagery in the Atlantic Basin, we can see Hurricane Larry being the main story there in the Atlantic. You can notice at the beginning of it, if you look towards Africa, some dry air coming off. That may be a bit of a good sign to keep some of those waves at bay, although it is peak season, so we'll definitely be looking all across the basin for activity. And 91L, you can see they're producing some thunderstorm activity over the Yucatan Peninsula. The Eastern Pacific is generally quiet. Again, thunderstorm activity as normal as you get further south. Not much thunderstorm activity really signaling any tropical cyclone formation, but that is more likely to change as we get towards the latter part of the 5-day period, along with those, with those two areas of interest. In the Western Pacific, you can see 94W southwest of Guam. There you can see it's producing some thunderstorm activity. It looks to perhaps be dealing with some wind shear there. And there's no thunderstorm activity east of Luzon. As I stated, that area of interest is mainly towards the latter part of the 5-day period. Formation in the northern Indian Ocean, you can see that monsoonal activity I mentioned earlier, really keeping any tropical cyclones at bay. They're not really going to form within the monsoonal season. If they were to form, it would be likely a weak system and still bring heavy rain though. In the southern hemisphere, you can see generally quiet, nothing really signaling tropical cyclone formation here, as you'd expect this time of year. And here's our look at Hurricane Larry. It's looking pretty good. Maybe some signals on that it could be starting the process of going under an eyewall replacement cycle. If that does happen, we'll have to watch what it does. But after that, regardless of if it happens or not, it's likely still to become a Category 4 and stay well out to sea. Although it could, as I mentioned earlier, bring impacts to a place like Bermuda. The sea surface temperatures near Mexico are piping hot, ready for those areas of interest. In the Atlantic Basin, it's piping hot, ready for 91L. Doesn't look like environmental conditions are going to be too favorable, though Larry, it's got warmer sea surface temperatures ahead of it, so it's looking more and more likely that this is going to peak at a Category 4. In the North Indian Ocean, we can see some warming in the northern Bay of Bengal, now upwards of 30 degrees Celsius there. generally elsewhere across the northern Indian Ocean, 28, 29 degrees Celsius. And in the western Pacific, it is piping hot, 29, 30 to 31 degrees Celsius, widespread in the basin, ready for 94W, and that area of interest east of Luzon. And the sea surface temperature anomalies you can see in the western Pacific, it is all above average there. Same case in the northern Indian Ocean. It starts to get a bit odd in the eastern Pacific. As you look towards Mexico, it's generally above average. If you go further out to sea, it gets near to below average. And in the Atlantic Basin, generally above average for the entire basin, except for an area in the eastern Gulf of Mexico that is rebounding though after Ida. And as we look at the On This Day section of September 5th, 2004, Hurricane Francis was making landfall on this day in eastern Florida. We also had Typhoon Songda approaching the southern Japanese islands at a Category 4. It was coming off of its Cat 4 peak, but still a powerful typhoon and would bring significant impacts to those islands. We also had Tropical Storms Howard, which was dying after its Category 4 peak earlier, and Tropical Storm Ivan was getting ready to go through its first rapid intensification phase today into the 6th in the main development region, and Tropical Storm Sarika was passing northeast of the Mariana Islands. And as we get to the naming lists, the Atlantic Basin is sort of quieter than it has been the past few weeks, but we are in peak season. I wouldn't be surprised to see more systems fairly soon. The next two names are Mindy and Nicholas. In the Eastern Pacific, it's possible we see two more names out of these areas of interest. The two new names are Olaf and Pamela. In the Central Pacific, we're still, believe it or not, waiting on Iona. In the Western Pacific, the two areas of interest could become systems. There, 94W looking more likely to form in the near term. The next two names are Kansan and Shanthu. The North Indian Ocean, the next two names are Gulab and Shaheen. Not likely to see any of those fairly soon. And as we move to the Southern Hemisphere, in the Australian region, the next two names are Patty and Ruby. And the Southwest Indian Ocean, it's Anna and Batsirai. And in the South Pacific, we're looking out for Cody, followed by Dovey. Thank you so much for watching this Tropical Weather Bulletin, and we'll have another one tomorrow night.